Welcome, dear listener. Tonight, as the world around you slowly settles into silence, and your mind begins to drift toward a gentler rhythm, I invite you to join me on a peaceful journey back to one of the most mysterious corners of ancient history. Long before the great empires rose, before the noise of crowded cities and the weight of modern life, there existed a quiet, extraordinary civilization hidden along the banks of a vast and patient river. The Indus. It was a world of perfect order, carefully designed streets that met like calm lines. On a map, homes built with a sense of balance and comfort, and a way of life so advanced, so thoughtful, that even today we still stand in awe of how much they understood and how silently they lived. Tonight, you and I will wander through those hidden cities, through the soft dust of Mohenjo-Daro, the ancient breath of Harappa, and the forgotten pathways where people once walked with quiet purpose and gentle routine. A civilization that left behind no kings, no loud monuments, only the whisper of bricks, baths, seals, and streets that tell their story in calm, unspoken ways. So settle in, let your mind slow down, and allow this peaceful tale to guide you into the quiet world of the Indus Valley. And before we begin, if you enjoy these calming journeys through history, I gently invite you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share where you're listening from. Your support helps these stories reach more people who need rest, and it encourages me to keep creating them for you. Now, dear listener, let us drift together into the hidden cities of the Indus. The night is quiet, and the air feels soft against your skin, the kind of stillness that gently invites the mind to drift backward through time. As you settle deeper into comfort, imagine yourself standing beside a wide and ancient river, a river that moves with a calm, measured patience, as if it has all the time in the world. This river is the Indus, one of the oldest lifelines the world has ever known. And tonight, it will guide us into the beginning of a civilization that grew in silence, yet achieved wonders beyond imagination. The Indus does not roar or rush. It glides. Its surface reflects the soft glow of a distant sun, and its currents glide like whispered stories traveling far into the unknown. If you lean closer, if you listen carefully, it almost feels as though the river is speaking, telling you where everything began, telling you why people gathered here long before history learned how to write their names. And this is where our journey begins. Thousands of years ago, long before the rise of Egypt's mighty pyramids or the echoing temples of Mesopotamia, small groups of people found their way to this river's edge. They came searching for water, for warmth, for a place to grow food, for safety from the vast uncertainty of the ancient world. What they discovered here was more than land. They discovered possibility. The soil near the Indus was rich and dark. The river overflowed every year, leaving behind fertile ground where seeds could take root with little effort. The wind was gentle, the seasons predictable, and the land wide enough for dreams to unfold. It didn't take long for those early settlers to understand that this place could offer them a future unlike any they had known before. And so, quietly, they stayed. Imagine them building the first simple shelters, shaping clay with their hands, listening to the wind whistle past their early homes. Picture the smoke rising from small fires as families cooked their meals, unaware that they were becoming the earliest chapter of one of the world's greatest civilizations. There were ordinary people living ordinary lives, yet each movement they made was slowly guiding humanity towards something extraordinary. If you look toward the river again, you'll notice something curious. The Indus is calm, almost unnaturally calm, as though it has been watching everything from the beginning. Perhaps that is why the people trusted it so deeply. A river that's steady, that reliable, must certainly know the way. As the population grew, something interesting began to happen. Instead of scattering across the land like many ancient communities, these people stayed close to one another. They formed clusters of homes, and those clusters soon became neighborhoods. And the neighborhoods began to take shape with intention, with lines and directions, with planning. This is where the first hint of genius reveals itself. Because while most ancient settlements grew in messy, unplanned clusters, the people beside the Indus began to lay out their living spaces with precision. Homes lined up in straight rows. Paths formed gentle grids. Drainage channels were carved with thought and care. It was as if someone, or perhaps everyone together, understood that a peaceful life begins with a peaceful design. And here is where the first hook of mystery appears. No records, no written commands, no royal orders tell us who planned this. No kings, no emperors, no rulers have been found who directed these early cities. The people seemed to work together, silently, effortlessly, as though they shared a unified vision. That alone is a puzzle that historians still struggle to explain. But perhaps the answer lies in the river. A river that moves without force, that shapes the land with patience instead of pressure, might have influenced the people who lived beside it. Just as the Indus flowed smoothly, their society seemed to follow the same path, stable, balanced, and remarkably calm. And yet, there is another layer to this beginning, one that draws us deeper. As seasons changed and generations passed, the settlements grew more complex. Clay bricks replaced temporary shelters, and ovens burned day and night to prepare the materials needed for long-lasting homes. The people did not build randomly. They built with purpose. They built with an understanding of what a community should feel like. They built with an understanding of what humans need to live peacefully. Their homes were not large or luxurious, but they were practical, comfortable, and carefully arranged. Each house was connected to a series of drains that carried waste away from living areas, a system so advanced that many later civilizations could not match it. And this was only the beginning. If you take a slow breath and look around this ancient world, you'll feel a stillness that is difficult to describe. There is no war here. No towering statues of rulers announcing their power. No signs of violent conquest. Everything is balanced, cooperative, almost gentle. It feels like a society built on harmony rather than domination. And that harmony would become the foundation for something greater, the rise of cities that would remain hidden for thousands of years. But to reach them, we must follow the river further. With each step you take along its edge, you might notice something else. You might sense the subtle hum of life beneath the earth. You might feel the outlines of buried streets, forgotten homes, silent granaries, and marketplaces, where voices once echoed softly through the air. If you pause and listen deeply, you may even hear faint traces of laughter, of footsteps, of routines that continued day after day in a world that thrived quietly by the water. This is your first glimpse of what lies ahead, because the people who gathered beside this river did not simply survive. They flourished. They grew beyond small settlements, beyond villages, beyond anything that might be expected of a simple ancient community. They became storytellers without writing, engineers without blueprints, planners without rulers. And soon, these settlements would evolve into something breathtaking, cities that would puzzle the world. Cities that would outlast their own voices. Cities designed with such extraordinary intelligence that their secrets continue to unfold even today. What drew them to build this way? What inspired their unified order? What hidden beliefs guided their hands? And why, after so much brilliance, did they suddenly disappear? These questions linger like soft echoes along the riverbank, and they pull us forward, inviting us deeper into the heart of the Indus Valley. Tonight, as we journey into their world, these mysteries will travel with us, gently guiding our curiosity, just as the river once guided those first settlers so long ago. And so, our chapter closes here on the quiet edge of this ancient waterway where possibility was born, and where the story of an astonishing civilization first began. When you are ready, we will follow the river into the first of the hidden cities. Just say chapter 2 whenever you want to continue. As the river stretches northward, the land begins to open into wide plains, soft with ancient dust and gentle breezes that seem to whisper through the silence. The night remains calm around you, and if you listen closely, you can almost feel the air shifting, as though something beneath the earth is waiting to reveal itself. This is where we arrive at one of the earliest great mysteries of the Indus Valley, the city of Harappa. At first glance, the landscape around you appears quiet, almost empty. The ground looks plain, with only scattered stones and faint lines in the soil. But if you kneel down, if you brush away just a thin layer of dirt, you'll discover that the silence is only an illusion. Beneath your fingertips lies a world that once thrived with life, a world that carried a rhythm so steady and so peaceful that its heartbeat still lingers in the ground. This was Harappa, a city that existed long before the world learned to write about cities. Imagine standing at the entrance of Harappa thousands of years ago. The sun would have warmed the baked brick walls, and the scent of clay would drift through the air as children ran through the open lanes. Traders would carry baskets filled with grains, beads, or pottery, exchanging goods with voices low and friendly. Families would rest in shaded courtyards while artisans shaped clay, carved stone, and polished ornaments with a patience that came from generations of practice. And yet, even at this early stage in human civilization, Harappa was no simple town. It was a masterpiece of design. If you walk through its streets in your mind, you'll feel something remarkable. The roads do not twist randomly. They stretch in straight lines, carefully measured, almost mathematically precise. Houses stand in coordinated rows, their walls aligned as though whoever built them understood the importance of order, comfort, and flow. There is no chaos here, no clutter, no sign of hurried construction. Everything feels intentional. And here is where one of the deepest hooks of the Indus Valley emerges. How could a civilization this ancient build with such clarity and unity? No obvious rulers, no carved commands, no written records have been found to explain who guided the structure of Harappa. Everything looks as though people simply agreed quietly on what their world should be. Let your imagination wander further. Walk down the main street. Feel how smooth the baked bricks are beneath your feet. Notice how the city doesn't rise in towering structures like later empires. Instead, it stays close to the ground, humble and calm. This choice alone hints at the character of its people. They were not obsessed with monuments or displays of power. They were focused on living well. On both sides of the street, you'll see rows of houses. Most of them are rectangular, built with standard-sized bricks, a detail that seems small but reveals something extraordinary. Standardization. The idea that everyone uses the same measurements is a sign of advanced thinking. It means cooperation. It means shared goals. It means a society that valued balance over hierarchy. Inside the houses, the design remains just as thoughtful. Many homes have central courtyards where light can fall softly during the day, creating a warm, gentle glow. Some have wells inside or just beside the entrance, so water is always within reach. In several homes, small platforms sit near the door, perhaps used for rituals or rest or shared meals. These silent hints offer glimpses into the daily rhythms of Harappan life. But the most astonishing part of Harappa's design lies beneath the surface. If you dig gently below the streets in your mind, you will find networks of drains, straight, covered, meticulously constructed channels that guided wastewater away from homes and into larger systems. Engineers, thousands of years ahead of their time, built these drains with gradient, direction, and cleanliness in mind. Even modern cities sometimes fail to achieve this level of systematic planning. And here, the next layer of mystery unfolds. Who taught them this? How did they develop such engineering without visible rulers, without written commands? It is one of the most beautiful unanswered questions in all of ancient history. Now, picture yourself wandering deeper into the city. A breeze passes by, carrying with it what might have once been the scent of grain stored safely in massive ground. Harappa was a city that understood abundance. Its people collected harvests, managed storage, and distributed resources with a level of organization that suggests communal understanding rather than force. Nearby, artisans shaped their futures with their hands. Beadmakers polished stones into tiny, colorful jewels. Potters molded clay into elegant shapes. Carpenters carved wooden figurines and household tools. Metalworkers heated copper and bronze until they glowed like embers in the night. Listen carefully, and you can almost hear the rhythmic tapping, the quiet grinding of stone, the soft music of craft and creation. These tiny sounds, playing together like a distant lullaby, tell us that Harappa was not only organized, it was alive with talent. The seals, those small carved tokens made from steatite, are among Harappa's most fascinating relics. They hold images of animals, mysterious symbols, human-like figures, and patterns whose meaning remains locked away from us. Some depict bulls with sweeping horns, others show tigers, elephants, and mythic creatures. The symbols carved above them form a script, one of the world's greatest puzzles. No one has yet deciphered the Indus script. These people wrote messages, marked identities, and recorded symbols, but the key to their language has never been found. Every seal is a whisper from thousands of years ago, a silent message waiting for someone to understand. Isn't it curious? A civilization so advanced, so structured, so peaceful, and yet completely silent in written history. This silence pulls you deeper into the story. Imagine the marketplace of Harappa. The ground is swept clean, the air filled with the soft hum of trade. People move without hurry, exchanging goods with gestures, smiles, or quiet words. There is no competition here, no loud bargaining. Everything flows smoothly, like the river that gave this city life. In the evenings, when the sun lowers itself behind distant hills, the city glows in warm shades of gold. Lamps flicker in the courtyards, families gather to share meals, the air cools, and a peaceful rhythm settles over the streets. Children fall asleep in the gentle light, listening to stories whispered by their elders. Life moves with a calm certainty, as though the people of Harappa have discovered an inner balance that the world later struggled to regain. But even in this tranquility, there is something else. A feeling that Harappa holds secrets deeper than the earth itself. Because beneath the ground, beneath the broken bricks and forgotten wells, lie clues of a society that was connected to distant lands. Archaeologists have found beads from Harappa and Mesopotamia, far across deserts and seas. They have uncovered evidence of trade networks crossing thousands of miles, linking this quiet city to worlds that most ancient societies never even knew existed. This raises yet another hook. How did such a peaceful, seemingly isolated community create connections so vast? What motivated them to explore? What did they seek beyond the horizon? As the night deepens, you feel the quiet heartbeat of Harappa fading softly into the darkness. The city stands before you, not as ruins, but as a living memory, calm, intelligent, well-planned, and full of gentle mystery. Everything about it invites you to walk deeper, to follow the lines of its streets into the next chapter of the Indus Valley secrets. And so our journey continues. When you are ready to move forward, to step into the most iconic of the Indus cities, Mohenjo-Daro, the city of mountains, just say. Night settles softly across the imagined landscape of the Indus Valley, and as you listen, I invite you to drift into a world where gentle river winds once carried the quiet laughter of artisans, merchants, and dreamers. Tonight, we walk a little deeper into that world, uncovering the identity of the mysterious people who built these hidden cities and shaped one of the most astonishing civilizations in human history. For a long time, historians believed that the Indus Valley Civilization simply appeared like a sudden bloom in the desert. But nothing great is born overnight. Behind the massive walls, behind the careful grids of the streets, behind the vast wells and carefully paved courtyards, there were people ordinary and extraordinary whose lives shaped this silent world. They were farmers, traders, potters, metalworkers, storytellers, and children running across sun-baked terraces. Their hands left impressions in clay that have lasted thousands of years, and their choices built the foundation of an entire society. One of the most fascinating things about the people of the Indus Valley is their ability to balance order with creativity. Their streets were aligned with astonishing precision, but their pottery carried spirals, waves, and dancing patterns that revealed a different side of their minds. Playful, imaginative, gentle. Archaeologists found toys made of terracotta, including carts with wheels that still turn. It's a quiet reminder that even in ancient times, children wanted joy, movement, and wonder, and the adults, with all their responsibilities, still made time to create beauty for them. But who exactly were these people? That is where the story becomes both mysterious and thrilling. The people of the Indus were not warriors carving empires with swords. They built no statues of kings. They carved no long inscriptions boasting of battles. Their story is not written in chronicles of conquest. Instead, it is etched in everyday life. The true rulers here were not individuals, but ideas, cooperation, balance, and clever design. Their cities do not rise around massive palaces or intimidating temples. Instead, they center around homes, workshops, wells, courtyards, and public baths. This suggests something extraordinary. A civilization where community mattered more than hierarchy, where architects worked for the people, not for the glory of a single ruler, where the measure of greatness was not how loud one could shout, but how well one could build a life worth living. Archaeologists believe that perhaps thousands of skilled workers collaborated to create urban centers like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa. These workers had no machines, no iron tools, no advanced cranes, yet they lifted thousands of bricks, aligned streets with perfect logic, and engineered drainage systems that some modern cities still struggle to match. Every brick, every lane, every reservoir speaks of coordination so advanced it feels almost futuristic. Daily life was filled with rhythms that shaped not only the city, but the hearts of its people. At sunrise, farmers walked to the fields carrying tools shaped from wood and bronze. The sound of early morning chatter echoed across the fields as irrigation channels were opened to guide river water toward the crops. Meanwhile, artisans gathered in workshops where copper was melted, pottery was spun, and beads were polished with almost microscopic precision. Jewelry makers carved tiny marks on carnelian stones, marks so fine that modern magnification is needed to properly study them. These were not simple decorations. Many scholars believe the beads and seals carried meaning, perhaps identifying families, trades, or stories. The seals, carved with images of bulls, tigers, unicorn-like creatures, and mysterious signs, might have told tales of ancestors or served as signatures for merchants traveling far beyond the valley. Though the Indus script remains undeciphered, each symbol seems to whisper across millennia, asking us to try again, to learn their forgotten language, to see the world through their eyes. Trade itself was a powerful force that brought the Indus people into contact with distant lands. Boats drifted along the river, loaded with cotton cloth and beads, destined for places far west, even reaching ancient Mesopotamia. In return, the Indus people brought home metals, rare stones, and exotic inspirations. Some items found at their sites originated from mountains hundreds of miles away. These long journeys speak of ambition, courage, and curiosity, traits shared by every great civilization. But what is most striking is how peacefully they seem to have lived. In every major site, archaeologists found almost no weapons, not the kind that announces large armies or violent expansion. The walls of their cities were not built for war, but for protection against floods. The absence of royal tombs or dramatic monuments tells us that no single ruler demanded eternal glory. Instead, their legacy is the everyday comfort they created for one another. You can imagine the warmth of their evenings. Families gathering on rooftops to escape the heat, sharing food flavored with herbs that still grow along the Indus. The scent of baked bread drifting through narrow alleys. Merchants returning home with stories from distant lands. Children falling asleep to tales about the river spirits, the animals carved on the seals, or the distant mountains glowing under moonlight. And beyond the walls, the river flowed, sometimes gentle, sometimes fierce, guiding, nourishing, and challenging them. The people learned to adapt to its moods. They built reservoirs, diverted water, and maintained systems so efficient that modern engineers still marvel. In many ways, the Indus Valley people were nature's quiet partners rather than its conquerors. The more we study them, the more they seem like a civilization built on harmony between craft and community, between order and imagination, between human needs and natural rhythms. And yet, despite such brilliance, they remain largely unknown. Their voices are lost. Their script still refuses to speak. Their leaders remain unnamed. Their myths are silent. But their cities? Their cities breathe. They breathe through the bricks shaped by countless hands. They breathe through the seals carved with animals no one has yet to... They breathe through the quiet layout of streets that still whispered the pattern of everyday footsteps. They breathe through the wells where countless conversations must have echoed. They breathe through the toys that carry the simple joy of childhood. Tonight, as you rest, imagine walking through one of these ancient cities under a sky full of stars. Imagine hearing soft footsteps on brick pavements. Imagine seeing the faint glow of oil lamps behind clay walls. Imagine the river flowing in the distance, steady and calm, just as it did thousands of years ago. Because the Indus Valley Civilization may be silent in our records, but it is alive in every mystery it left behind. And in the next chapter, we will wander deeper into those mysteries as we explore the astonishing technologies hidden beneath the dust of time, the inventions, innovations, and ideas that made the Indus Valley one of the most advanced cultures the ancient world ever knew. Tonight, the silent architects of the valley walk with us. Their stories drift like gentle winds through history, calling us to listen, to wonder, and to imagine what else lies waiting to be discovered. The Indus River, flowing with a calm but steady rhythm, was the lifeline of an entire civilization. In this chapter, we drift gently along its wide, shimmering waters, imagining the people who lived beside it, worked with it, and understood it deeply, while many ancient societies fought their rivers, controlling them with force or fearing their unpredictable moods. The Indus people lived in harmony with theirs. The river was trusted, respected, and woven into every part of life. Imagine the soft morning light stretching across the plains as the river glows with a pale, silvery blue. Farmers rise early, stepping onto fields made fertile by the river's seasonal floods. The rich, dark soil, renewed each year, allowed wheat, barley, cotton, and lentils to grow in abundance. The rhythm of farming followed the river's pulse when it rose, when it fell, when it nourished the land with minerals carried from distant mountains. Children watched the river with fascination, learning its moods the way one learns a family member's expressions. Fishermen set out in boats carved from wood, gliding effortlessly across the water as early birds circled overhead. They cast nets with practiced motion, trusting the river to provide what their families needed. Each day began with a river's whisper, a soft sound carried by the wind across the fields, the houses, and the quiet streets. Along the river banks, long lines of cattle moved slowly under the guidance of her. The animals were essential companions in daily life, strong, patient partners in farming, transport, and trade. The sight of cattle walking in peaceful rhythm became one of the defining images of the Indus Valley, a symbol of life moving forward with calm purpose. Craftsmen, too, relied on the river. They collected fine clay from its shores, shaping pots, bowls, and jars that carried the essence of the river's gifts. Each vessel was crafted with care, fired in kilns that glowed in the night, producing pottery so durable that pieces survive even today. The river's water was used for shaping clay, cooling tools, dyeing fabrics, and polishing precious stones. Life flowed where the river flowed. Trade flourished along this waterway. Quiet boats transported goods from city to city, carrying grain, shells, cotton, spices, and pottery. The river connected distant settlements like a natural highway, allowing ideas, goods, and people to move effortlessly. At the edges of each city, small docks and marketplaces buzzed with activity. Merchants arranged their wares in neat rows, calling out softly to one another, discussing trade routes, weather, and stories from faraway lands. Imagine standing near one of these river markets as the sun climbs higher. You would hear gentle waves brushing against wooden boats, the soft thump of clay pots being stacked, and the warm hum of voices blending with the breeze. Nothing was rushed. Nothing was chaotic. The rhythm of trade was patient and, sure, just like the river itself. Yet the river was more than a tool for survival. It shaped identity, culture, and belief. For the people of the Indus Valley, water symbolized purity, renewal, and connection. Communal baths, carefully constructed with brick and lined with bitumen, likely drew inspiration from the river's cleansing qualities. Rituals may have been performed with water as their central element, cleansing not just the body, but the spirit. The river also inspired stories, though their written script remains Archaeologists believe that people likely shared tales of the river's origins, its power, and its sacredness. Elders may have spoken of the snowy mountains where the river began, teaching children to honor the water that sustained their lives. Through stories, each generation learned that the river was more than a resource. It was a companion that required respect and care. Seasonal floods played a significant role in shaping the valley's character. When the river swelled, it brought new soil and nourishment, but also challenges. The people of the Indus did not resist these floods. They adapted. Homes were elevated, storage areas were protected, and city layouts were designed to allow water to pass without destruction. This intelligent response showed an understanding of nature that was far ahead of its time. Instead of bending the environment to their will, they bent themselves to fit the environment's rhythm. Walk with me now through a field at dusk. The day has ended, and the workers are returning home. The river glows with the last golden light of evening. The distant sound of drums or flutes drifts through the air as families gather for dinner. Clay lamps flicker in doorways, casting warm pools of light on the ground. Some people sit quietly outside their homes, watching the river, listening to its soft, steady murmur. It was the sound that comforted children, soothed tired workers, and guided travelers returning from distant lands. Ivanachi night, the river remained alive. The moonlight shimmered on its surface, and the gentle current carried reflections of stars across the valley. Fishermen sometimes ventured out with lamps hung from their boats, dots of fire gliding across the dark water. The river never slept, and neither did the life around it. What made the Indus Valley truly remarkable was the seamless connection between humans and nature. There was no constant battle for control. Instead, there was coexistence, a partnership built on trust, respect, and understanding. This mindset allowed the civilization to thrive for centuries, creating some of the world's most advanced cities long before other societies began to dream of such achievements. As night deepens, imagine yourself sitting beside the river. The air is cool, the world's quiet. You can hear only the gentle movement of water and the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. The stars reflect in the water, making it seem as though the sky has fallen into the river itself. In this moment, you can sense the deep wisdom of the Indus people, their patience, their harmony with the natural world, their ability to build a life of stability and peace without destroying the environment that sustained them. The river flowed then, and it flows now. Though the cities have fallen silent and the people are long gone, the water still carries their story. It travels across lands and time, whispering memories of a civilization that understood balance, unity, and the quiet strength of living with nature. Their story remains shimmering on the surface of the river, just as the moonlight does tonight, as the evening deepens and shadows stretch across the plains. Imagine walking through a city unlike any other of its time, a city alive with thought, design, and quiet ingenuity. Beneath your feet, a network of bricks and channels carries water where it needs to go. A system so precise that even centuries later, engineers studying it remain amazed. Tonight, we turn our attention to one of the most remarkable, yet often overlooked, achievements of the Indus Valley Civilization: its extraordinary drainage and sanitation system. Most ancient cities struggled with waste. Streets became stagnant. Diseases spread easily, and communities were forced to constantly battle their own environment. But here, along the banks of the Indus River, something different emerged. Cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were carefully planned with one goal in mind: to ensure the health, cleanliness, and comfort of their citizens. And they succeeded in ways that still leave modern observers astounded. Picture yourself walking down a main street of Mohenjo. The sun has just dipped below the horizon, and a soft breeze brushes against your face. Notice the neatly paved lanes stretching straight ahead, perfectly aligned, almost like a modern city blueprint. On either side, houses rise in orderly rows, each with its own private courtyard, wells, and small platforms. And now, look closer. Notice the covered drains running alongside the streets, almost hidden but remarkably sophisticated. Every house, every street, every public building connects to a network designed to carry waste away from homes, preventing contamination and maintaining hygiene. It is incredible to think that over 4,000 years ago, people designed such a system without advanced tools, without computers, without even written instructions that we can read today. They built with a shared understanding of gradients, flow, and purpose. Each drain is slightly sloped, allowing water to move naturally, carrying away not just liquid, but the small debris that accumulates in daily life. Some channels even have brick covers, allowing easy access for cleaning, a detail that emphasizes foresight, planning, and an attention to maintenance that is rare in any era. And yet, this system was not imposed from above by a distant ruler. There are no inscriptions, no royal decrees explaining its construction. It seems to have emerged from collective knowledge, from shared wisdom, from a communal understanding of how life should flow alongside the river. It is a perfect marriage of nature and human ingenuity. And that is the essence of the Indus people. A civilization that achieved brilliance without grandeur, that left no king's tombs, but whose genius flows beneath the streets like a hidden river. As you walk along these ancient lanes, imagine the people using them. Mothers and fathers caring for children, young boys and girls running to fetch water from wells, merchants cleaning tools in containers after trading goods, artisans washing clay pots before shaping them into bowls and cups. Every action is supported by the drainage system, every daily routine made safer, cleaner, and more efficient. Life flows here with an elegance that feels almost modern, almost impossible for a civilization so ancient. And there is more to discover. Some houses had private bathrooms connected directly to the street drains, an astonishing level of urban sophistication. Larger public baths exist at the center of cities, pools of water built for communal hygiene, ritual bathing, and social gatherings. The Great Bath at Mohenjo-Daro, a structure measuring over 12 meters long and 7 meters wide, shows us that water was not only practical but ceremonial, integral to daily life, culture, and community identity. The very idea that thousands of people could maintain cleanliness and order in such a complex urban environment it speaks of civic responsibility, shared rules, and a collective understanding of well-being. These systems were not just functional, they were a reflection of values, an expression of the Indus people's priorities, their intelligence, and their foresight. And yet, despite this brilliance, the civilization remains silent in so many ways. No temples proclaim divine favor. No inscriptions tell the story of the engineers who designed the drains. No statues celebrate the laborers who built them. The Indus people trusted that their work would last, that it would serve generations, and perhaps they understood that true greatness is measured not by fame, but by the well-being of a community. There is a lesson here, gentle and profound, that drifts across millennia, that careful planning, shared responsibility, and subtle innovation can shape lives in ways that echo long after the builders themselves are gone. Imagine, for a moment, the soft sound of water flowing through these ancient channels. It moves slowly, deliberately, like the heartbeat of the city. You can almost hear the rhythm of life above, punctuated by this quiet, invisible flow. Children laughing in courtyards, merchants arranging goods, families gathering near wells, and beneath it all, water moves silently, carrying away the remnants of the day, leaving the city fresh and ready for the next. This quiet ingenuity extends beyond the obvious. The placement of wells, for instance, shows careful observation of groundwater levels. Some houses have multiple wells, ensuring that no family is ever far from clean water. Rainwater collection systems appear in clever variations designed to supplement the river's flow during drier months. Even in moments when the river's moods were unpredictable, the people of the Indus Valley found balance and resilience, designing a system that responded naturally to the environment. And the brilliance doesn't stop there. This drainage network also hints at social organization. Maintaining such a system requires coordination, cooperation, and knowledge sharing. Someone had to monitor the flow, clean the channels, and teach the next generation how to care for them. This suggests communities that communicated effectively, shared responsibilities, and valued the collective over individual glory. So as you settle further into your resting place tonight, think of these hidden channels beneath the ancient city streets. Imagine the care, patience, and intelligence required to craft a system that supports thousands of lives quietly, efficiently, and without fanfare. Let the rhythm of flowing water guide your thoughts, calm your mind, and remind you of a civilization that understood harmony in its most practical and beautiful form. And as the night deepens, remember that this is only one piece of the puzzle. The Indus Valley Civilization continues to astonish with secrets, innovations, and mysteries that remain hidden even after millennia. In the next chapter, we will explore the inner lives of the people who lived inside these incredible homes, their daily routines, their joys and their quiet struggles, all framed by the gentle guidance of the river and the ingenuity that surrounds them. The sun rises slowly over the plains of the Indus Valley, spilling soft golden light across streets that have been walked for centuries. If you close your eyes, you can almost feel the warmth of the morning on your skin. Hear the gentle stirrings of a city that thrives quietly beside a patient river. Today, in this chapter, we step into the lives of the people who inhabited these hidden cities. We will see not just the bricks, the streets, and the drainage systems, but the very human rhythms that made the Indus Valley Civilization extraordinary. Life in Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro moved with a calm consistency, a rhythm dictated by the river, the seasons, and the needs of the community. Imagine a family waking in the early morning light. The father walks to the fields carrying simple tools, ready to tend to wheat or barley, while the mother fills a clay pot with water drawn from a nearby well. Children, still sleepy, run barefoot through courtyards, laughing softly as they chase one another under the watchful eyes of older siblings. The city is alive, but not loud. There is order, but not oppression. Every movement is purposeful, yet natural, flowing like the currents of the Indus itself. The homes themselves were more than shelters. They were carefully designed spaces that reflected thought and care. Courtyards allowed air and light to enter, keeping interiors bright during the day. Platforms and storage spaces provided functional areas for daily tasks, from grinding grain to preparing food. Small altars in some homes hint at spiritual or ritual practices, though nothing grand or imposing. Here, faith and practicality coexist quietly, as if the people understood that reverence can be subtle, personal, and part of everyday life. And yet, the city was not just a series of isolated homes. Social interaction played a vital role. Neighbors shared tools, exchanged goods, and supported one another in ways that reveal a cooperative spirit that is rare, even by today's standards. Perhaps this is why the streets remain so orderly, the drains so meticulously maintained, and the public baths so central to city life. The well-being of each household depended on the well-being of the community as a whole. Speaking of baths, imagine stepping into one of the great public baths of Indus Valley Civilization. The structure is vast, rectangular, and lined with carefully fitted bricks that hold water securely. Gentle steps lead into the pool, and surrounding platforms provide space for conversation or contemplation. Here, citizens gather not only to wash but to connect, to share stories, and to participate in rituals that reinforce the bonds of the community. Water, which flows beneath the streets and through the drains, also carries life into the social fabric of the city, linking individuals in quiet, meaningful ways. Daily work was as varied as it was vital. Artisans molded clay into vessels, baked bricks, or carved seals with intricate symbols. Metalworkers shaped bronze tools, while beadmakers polished stones into tiny ornaments. Traders and merchants traveled beyond the city, exchanging goods, ideas, and stories with distant lands. Even children contributed, carrying water, helping in workshops, or learning the skills that would one day sustain the city. In all of this, you can sense the hum of activity, gentle but continuous, a quiet engine that kept the city alive. Food preparation was another cornerstone of daily life. Families ground grain into flour, baked bread, and stored surplus crops in clay jars. Markets offered vegetables, fruits, spices, and occasionally rare items brought from afar. Meals were simple yet nourishing, reflecting both the bounty of the land and the ingenuity of those who worked it. There was a rhythm to eating, to working, to resting, a rhythm that aligned with the cycles of the river, the sun, and the seasons, creating a sense of continuity and stability. Education and knowledge were woven into daily existence. Children learned by observation, by assisting elders, and by participating in the daily routines of their households and neighborhoods. Artisans taught apprentices, families passed down traditions, and the city itself acted as a classroom. Knowledge was practical, embedded in every brick laid, every channel dug, and every craft. It was a civilization where learning was not confined to books, but lived, breathed, and shared in the everyday rhythm of life. Yet, despite this calm and structure, there were also mysteries that punctuated the daily routines. The meaning of the Indus script remained hidden. Seals depicting animals, mythical figures, and complex patterns hinted at spiritual or social dimensions of life that we may never fully understand. Every quiet street, every sunlit courtyard, every carefully paved lane carries a whisper of curiosity, reminding us that even the most orderly civilizations hold secrets beneath the surface. Perhaps what is most striking about daily life in the Indus Valley is the sense of balance. The people understood moderation, sustainability, and the careful use of resources. Water was managed, crops were rotated, homes were planned with foresight, and communities shared responsibilities. There was no extravagance or waste, no ostentation or spectacle. Instead, there was quiet elegance, intelligence, and a deep understanding of what it means to live in harmony with others and with the environment. As you drift deeper into this story, imagine following a day from sunrise to sunset. The river flows steadily in the background, providing sustenance and guiding rhythms. Children play in the courtyards, merchants arrange their goods, artisans work with meticulous care, and families gather to share meals and stories. Each moment is a thread, woven together to create the fabric of city life, resilient, thoughtful, and quietly extraordinary. And yet, this story does not end here. Beneath the visible rhythms of daily life lies another layer, the innovations, technologies, and ideas that allowed these cities to thrive. Irrigation systems, standardized bricks, urban planning, trade networks, and communal cooperation all contributed to a civilization that was advanced, adaptive, and enduring. Understanding the lives of its citizens is the key to understanding the genius of the Indus Valley. Tonight, as you lie in comfort and let your mind wander through these streets, imagine walking alongside them. Feel the warmth of the sun, the cool of the river, the texture of clay bricks beneath your fingertips. Listen to the soft laughter, the gentle conversations, the rhythm of daily work, and the silent hum of a civilization that flourished without fanfare, without conquest, and without written chronicles of kings. Here, greatness is measured not in monuments, but in the quiet elegance of everyday life. And so, as the Indus Valley hums softly around us, we prepare to move further into its hidden depths in the next chapter. There, we will explore the crafts, arts, and spiritual life that filled these cities with meaning, revealing not only how people lived, but how they imagined, created, and connected with the world around them. as the evening shadows stretch across the plains of the Indus Valley. Imagine stepping softly through a city where creativity and skill flow as naturally as the river itself. Life in the hidden cities was more than survival, more than daily routine. It was a celebration of craftsmanship, art, and subtle beauty woven into the very fabric of the urban landscape. Tonight, in this chapter, we explore the soul of the city, the hands, minds, and imaginations that made Indus Valley Civilization and their neighbors extraordinary. Walk through a quiet street and notice the clay pots stacked neatly in front of a workshop. The shapes vary, some wide and shallow, others tall and slender, but each one is perfectly balanced. The symmetry and smoothness achieved by skillful hands turning the wheel. These were not mere containers. They were vessels that carried food, water, or oil, and sometimes small offerings for rituals. Yet, even in their practical function, they carry beauty, proof that the Indus people valued both utility and aesthetics in equal measure. Nearby, artisans work with stone, metal, and beads. Tiny carnelian stones, polished until they glint in the sun, are transformed into necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. Each bead tells a story, from its shape and color to the precision of its hole, which allows it to be threaded into intricate patterns. Seals, carved from steatite, feature animals, both real and imagined bulls, elephants, unicorn-like creatures, and symbols that remain under. The designs suggest ritual, identity, or trade, but their exact purpose remains a mystery. A whisper from a civilization that valued subtlety and precision over loud proclamations. Metalwork is another realm of ingenuity. Bronze tools, weapons for everyday use, and ceremonial objects are cast using techniques that reveal a profound understanding of materials. Copper is melted and poured into molds, cooled and polished with patience. Even in simple tools, there is elegance, smooth handles, balanced forms, and durability. The mastery of these skills shows a people deeply connected to their resources, aware of both their limitations and possibilities. And then there is textile work. Although fabrics rarely survive thousands of years, evidence suggests that cotton was cultivated, spun, and woven with care. Dyes from plants and minerals were applied to threads, producing patterns and colors that carried meaning, beauty, and individuality. Garments were not only functional, they were an expression of identity, craft, and cultural sophistication. Imagine the soft hum of spinning wheels, the delicate brushing of threads, the rhythmic movement of hands weaving life into cloth. Yet art was not confined to functional objects. Figurines, often made of clay, depict humans, animals, and mythic figures. Some appear in poses of dance or ritual, with delicate attention to proportions and expressions. Children might have played with tiny clay toys shaped like animals or carts, while adults use similar skills to create symbols of belief or status. Every touch of the artisan's hand carries intention, care, and the quiet heartbeat of the city itself. The city's soul is also reflected in its architecture. Houses, courtyards, public baths, and granaries show a harmony of form and function. Bricks are standardized, walls aligned, streets paved, and drains integrated seamlessly. Yet subtle ornamentation, carved thresholds, decorative platforms, patterned brickwork demonstrates that even in planning, there was room for beauty. Civilization here is measured not in grandeur, but in the thoughtful integration of art into everyday life. Trade played a crucial role in sustaining both craft and culture. Beads, ornaments, pottery, and textiles traveled far beyond the Indus Valley, reaching Mesopotamia, the Persian Gulf, and regions even further west. This exchange of goods was also an exchange of ideas, techniques, and inspiration. The Indus people were connected to distant lands, yet their cities retained a quiet internal coherence, a balance between the local and the faraway, between tradition and innovation. And then there are the symbols, those mysterious inscriptions on seals and tablets. Each mark, each line, each figure suggests a narrative or an idea. Scholars have tried for centuries to decode them, but the Indus script remains a mystery. These symbols may represent trade agreements, names, beliefs, or stories, but their exact meanings are lost to us. Still, they remind us that the people of the Indus Valley thought in complexity, in nuance, in layers that often elude modern understanding. Spirituality also emerges subtly. There are no massive temples or statues of rulers demanding worship. Instead, there are hints, small altars in homes, ritual objects, and figurines that suggest practices connected to fertility, nature, and perhaps a reverence for the river that sustained their lives. Life itself seems sacred, and every act of work, craft, or trade carries with it a recognition of human responsibility to the community and to the environment. Even leisure was present, gentle and human. Children played, adults conversed in courtyards, and families gathered around meals. Music may have floated through the streets, simple instruments, flutes, drums, or perhaps voices raised in soft songs that honored the rhythms of life. The city's sounds, a subtle symphony of human existence, reflect a civilization both organized and intimate, structured and alive with imagination. Consider the daily cycle. The sun rises and the city awakens in gentle rhythm. Fields are tended, workshops hum with activity, markets open, and social life flows naturally. The afternoon brings warmth, encouraging rest, reflection, and quiet conversation. The evening cools, lamps glow, families gather, children sleep, and the river continues to flow, silent, steadfast, and ever-present. In all of this, there is balance, intelligence, and a profound understanding of harmony between work, play, and the flow of life itself. And yet, even with such sophistication, the Indus Valley Civilization remains shrouded in mystery. We know how they lived, what they made, how they organized their cities, and yet we do not know why they vanished. Did climate change shift the river's course? Did trade routes decline? Did disease or conflict play a role? Or was it a combination of subtle pressures, the kind that can quietly alter the course of any civilization? The questions linger, and they make the story all the more compelling. Tonight, as you rest and let your imagination wander through the quiet streets of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, picture artisans at work, children playing, families gathering, and the river flowing gently nearby. Imagine the steady hum of life, the gentle balance of order and creativity, and the soft echo of secrets that have survived thousands of years. In every brick, every seal, every carefully aligned street, the people of the Indus Valley speak across time, a soft, silent voice reminding us of their ingenuity, their care, and their humanity. And as the night deepens, we leave the crafts and arts of the city behind, knowing that in the next chapter, we will explore the hidden mysteries, trade, and the remarkable connectivity of the Indus civilization, how these cities, quiet and well-ordered, reached across continents and influenced the world far beyond the river's banks. As night drifts gently over the Indus Valley, let us journey beyond the walls of Indus Valley civilization, beyond the carefully paved streets and private courtyards, and into the vast networks that connected this civilization to distant lands. The Indus people were not isolated dreamers. They were merchants, explorers, and innovators who understood the power of connection. Tonight, in this chapter, we will explore the remarkable trade, communication, and cultural links that allowed the Indus Valley to thrive as part of a larger, interconnected ancient world. The river was more than a source of water. It was a highway. Boats laden with goods traveled along the Indus, carrying raw materials, finished products, and ideas. Merchants moved from city to city, exchanging everything from beads and pottery to grain and metal tools. Even everyday items, like clay vessels or woven textiles, could travel hundreds of miles, linking distant communities in commerce and shared knowledge. The Indus civilization understood that trade was not merely an economic necessity, but a way to sustain culture, innovation, and human connection. One of the most striking examples of this connectivity is the trade with Mesopotamia. Archaeologists have discovered Indus seals, beads, and pottery in Mesopotamian cities such as Ur and Babylon. Similarly, objects originating from Mesopotamia, including metals, precious stones, and artistic motifs, have been found in Indus sites. This exchange shows that the people of the Indus Valley were active participants in an international network long before modern communication or transportation systems existed. They were part of a vast tapestry of trade that stretched from the river valleys of South Asia to the Fertile Crescent of the Middle East. Imagine, for a moment, a merchant in Harappa preparing for a journey. His boat is loaded with carnelian beads, finely crafted pottery, and carefully wrapped textiles. He knows that in faraway lands, traders await eager to acquire these goods. Alongside him, travelers and assistants manage supplies, check routes, and ensure that goods are secured. The journey may be long and unpredictable, but each trip strengthens the network, builds relationships, and spreads the culture of the Indus Valley beyond its borders. Trade was not merely about objects. It carried ideas. Techniques in bead-making, metalworking, and pottery may have traveled alongside the physical goods, designing motifs, symbols, and perhaps even knowledge of irrigation, urban planning, and construction could have been exchanged with distant cities. This subtle flow of culture allowed the Indus people to innovate continuously while also influencing and being influenced by other civilizations. In this way, trade was both practical and intellectual, economic and cultural. Even within the Indus Valley, trade networks were sophisticated. Each city specialized in different crafts and products. Mohenjo-Daro might focus on beads, seals, and textiles, while Harappa produced metal tools and pottery. Smaller towns acted as hubs for local goods, distributing resources efficiently across the region. This specialization reflects a high degree of organization, planning, and understanding of supply and demand concepts that remain relevant today. Markets were vibrant centers of both economy and social interaction. Merchants displayed goods on carefully arranged stalls, while buyers negotiated, exchanged stories, and learned about distant lands through the objects they purchased. Children watched, learned, and sometimes assisted, gaining practical knowledge of commerce and trade from an early age. The marketplace was a place where culture, economy, and daily life converged, reinforcing the sense of community while connecting it to the wider world. Long-distance trade required trust, standardization, and communication. Here, the Indus seals may have played a critical role. Each seal likely represented a person, family, or business, marking goods as authentic and providing a signature for transactions. Though the script remains undeciphered, it is clear that these symbols helped maintain accountability and coordination in a vast network. Merchants relied on these tools to navigate complex systems of exchange, just as modern businesses use invoices, contracts, and transport too was remarkably sophisticated. Boats, rafts, and carts moved goods across rivers and overland. Roads and paths were maintained to facilitate travel, and storage facilities were built near waterways to ensure smooth transitions between different modes of transport. Cities were strategically placed along trade routes with access to natural resources, arable land, and the river network. Every aspect of infrastructure reflected an understanding of logistics that feels modern in its precision. Trade also brought diversity into the cities. Foreign merchants, travelers, and emissaries may have introduced new ideas, materials, and even rituals. Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro were cultural melting pots, where the local population absorbed influences without losing their own identity. This dynamic exchange enriched daily life, spurred innovation, and reinforced the resilience of the civilization. The Indus people thrived not by isolation, but by engagement with the wider world. And yet, despite this remarkable connectivity, there is a sense of quiet mystery. The Indus Valley Civilization leaves few written records. The meanings of their script, the details of their governance, and the full extent of their networks remain partially hidden. Each archaeological discovery answers some questions, but raises many others. What we know, however, paints a picture of a civilization deeply connected, highly organized, and astonishingly sophisticated, a people who understood the value of both local life and international exchange. In this chapter, we have walked along the arteries of trade, imagined the merchants, craftsmen, and travelers who kept the cities alive, and glimpsed the invisible threads that link the Indus Valley to distant lands. It is a reminder that greatness is not always loud or grandiose. Sometimes it is quiet, systematic, and deeply human. A civilization that built not just cities, but connections, trust, and shared knowledge across continents. As you close your eyes tonight, picture a boat drifting along the gentle Indus River, laden with goods and ideas. Hear the voices of merchants calling softly, the clatter of goods being arranged, the laughter of children at play near the river banks. Imagine distant cities responding in kind, each interaction a quiet thread in the fabric of an ancient, interconnected world. This is the rhythm of trade, the heartbeat of civilization, and the enduring genius of the Indus people. And as the night deepens, we prepare to move forward. exploring in the next chapter the mysterious decline and ultimate disappearance of this remarkable civilization, leaving us with questions, wonders, and a sense of awe at what was achieved and what was lost to time. As the soft light of evening falls over the Indus Valley, imagine the bustling streets and sunlit courtyards of Indus Valley Civilization, slowly growing quieter, as if the city itself were holding its breath. In this chapter, we step into one of the greatest mysteries of ancient history: the decline and eventual disappearance of the Indus Valley Civilization. For a society so carefully organized, so remarkably advanced, what caused its sudden quiet? Tonight, we explore the subtle, complex, and intertwined possibilities, tracing a story that continues to fascinate scholars, historians, and dreamers alike. The first clue lies in the rivers themselves. The Indus River and its tributaries were the lifeblood of the civilization. They carried water, nourished crops, and supported trade routes that connected cities to distant lands. But rivers are never static. They shift, change, and sometimes abandon their old paths. Geological studies suggest that over time, some rivers may have altered course or even dried up in certain regions. Fields that were once fertile could have become barren, wells could have run dry, and the careful balance between the city and its environment might have been disrupted. For a civilization so dependent on the river, even minor shifts could have profound consequences. Yet environmental change alone may not explain everything. Evidence points to climate shifts that brought longer dry seasons or more intense flooding. Crops could have failed, food stores dwindled, and malnutrition may have become a daily reality. In such conditions, cities designed for cooperation and planning might have faced strain. The careful social contracts, the reliance on shared responsibilities, and the intricate networks of trade may have begun to fray as families and communities struggled to survive. Archaeologists have noted signs of abrupt abandonment in some cities. Buildings once meticulously maintained fell into disrepair. Streets, drains, and workshops were left to the elements. Objects, tools, and household items were left behind, as if the residents departed suddenly without ceremony or warning. Some scholars suggest that entire populations may have migrated, seeking more reliable water sources or fertile lands elsewhere. Perhaps they followed the rivers that had shifted, or discovered new plains that promised stability. Yet, the evidence of sudden disappearance is not uniform. Some areas show continued, albeit reduced, habitation, suggesting a gradual decline rather than instant collapse. The picture is complex: a civilization facing environmental stress, possible disruptions to trade networks, and the challenges of sustaining large urban populations. Unlike empires that fell to armies or invasions, the Indus cities seem to have faded quietly, leaving behind remarkable infrastructure, but far fewer people to maintain it. Trade may also have played a role. The Indus Valley was part of a vast international network, connecting distant civilizations through commerce. If trade routes were disrupted by political instability in Mesopotamia, changing river patterns, or shifting economic demand, the cities would have felt the impact. Resources and goods that had once flowed smoothly might have slowed or stopped, creating shortages that compounded environmental and social challenges. In this sense, the decline of the Indus Valley may have been a combination of internal and external pressures. A delicate system strained by forces both near and far. Diseases may also have contributed. Urban centers, no matter how well, are vulnerable to the spread of illness, especially when nutrition is compromised and water systems are stressed. Smallpox, cholera, or other pathogens could have weakened populations, subtly reducing resilience over generations. We cannot know for certain, but the combination of environmental, economic, and social factors paints a picture of a civilization facing mounting, unavoidable challenges. Despite this decline, the ingenuity of the Indus people left a lasting legacy. Their urban planning, sanitation systems, craft techniques, and trade networks influenced subsequent civilizations, even if the memory of their cities faded from immediate history. The silence of their script and the disappearance of their leadership structures do not erase the impact of their ideas. In many ways, the decline of the Indus Valley reminds us that even great civilizations are vulnerable to forces beyond their control. Yet their innovations can endure far beyond their time. As we imagine the last days of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, picture quiet streets, once bustling with activity. Courtyards that held children at play now stand empty. Workshops that rang with the sound of artisans are silent. The river continues to flow, indifferent yet sustaining, carrying memories of a civilization that reached extraordinary heights and then quietly receded. The bricks, the seals, the public baths all remained as witnesses, whispering across millennia, telling us what was and inviting us to imagine what could have been. And yet, the story is not merely one of loss. The Indus Valley Civilization challenges us to think about resilience, ingenuity, and the delicate balance between humans and their environment. Their careful urban planning, harmonious communities, and sophisticated crafts remind us that greatness is not always measured in conquests or monuments, but in the quiet ways people shape their lives and the world around them. Even in decline, there is a lesson, attention to detail, respect for nature, and collaboration can leave a legacy that survives far beyond immediate survival. Tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine walking through these abandoned streets, hearing the echo of past footsteps, feeling the presence of lives once lived with care, skill, and purpose. Imagine the quiet hum of a civilization that thrived, adapted, and then gently faded, leaving behind mysteries, achievements, and a story that continues to captivate our imaginations. The Indus Valley may no longer bustle with life, but it still speaks softly, persistently, and beautifully, inviting us to listen, wonder, and dream. In the next chapter, we will explore the hidden artifacts, religious practices, and the enduring mysteries that continue to connect us to the Indus civilization, revealing that even in absence, the human spirit of creativity and connection endures. As night fully blankets the plains of the Indus Valley, imagine yourself walking among the remnants of a civilization, both advanced and the streets may be quiet, the houses empty, and the river ever flowing, but the city still speaks through the artifacts left behind. In this chapter, we explore the objects, beliefs, and enduring mysteries of the Indus people, evidence of lives lived with skill, thoughtfulness, and subtle complexity. Step into a workshop, long abandoned, and look closely at the tools and materials left behind. Bronzy chisels, pottery wheels, and stone molds tell stories of careful craftsmanship. Every object shows evidence of precision, patience, and expertise. The small carnelian beads, polished until they glimmer like sunlight on water, hint at trade networks spanning continents. They were not merely ornaments, they were symbols of identity, status, and creativity. Imagine a craftsman working with steady hands, selecting each stone, polishing it to perfection, threading it into intricate necklaces. Each piece carried the essence of its maker, a silent, enduring signature of skill and care. Seals are another remarkable aspect of Indus life. Carved from soft steatite, these small squares or rectangles bear intricate designs of animals, mythical creatures, and enigmatic symbols. While scholars have yet to decipher the Indus script fully, these seals themselves speak volumes. They were likely used for trade, identification, or ritual purposes, marking goods and establishing authenticity. Picture a merchant pressing a seal into soft clay, leaving a unique impression that travels with goods across vast distances. The artistry is deliberate, the symbolism potent, and the impact for figurines to reveal the spiritual and cultural life of the Indus people. Many depict humans in meditative or dance-like postures, often with attention to detail and facial expressions in clothing. Animal figurines, bulls, elephants, and even composite creatures may reflect religious beliefs, mythological stories, or simply an appreciation for nature. These small objects, made with care and imagination, allow us to glimpse the inner world of a civilization that valued expression, ritual, and observation. Religion in the Indus Valley remains a subtle and tantalizing mystery. Unlike Mesopotamia or Egypt, there are no towering temples or elaborate tombs. Instead, we find evidence of domestic altars, ritual baths, and figurines that suggest reverence for natural forces, fertility, and life cycles. Perhaps the Great Bath in Mohenjo-Daro served ceremonial purposes, a communal space for purification or ritual observance. Water, so central to daily life, may have held symbolic significance, cleansing, connecting, and sustaining both body and spirit. The emphasis on domestic rituals suggests a civilization where spirituality was integrated into everyday life. Offerings may have been placed in homes, small figurines handled with care, and communal gatherings accompanied by music, dance, or song. Faith was quiet, personal, and deeply tied to the rhythms of daily existence. Even the carefully planned urban layout, with homes, streets, and public spaces in harmony, reflects a society attentive not only to practicality, but to the balance of human, spiritual, and natural worlds. A trade to intersected with belief and culture. Goods exchanged over long distances carried not only material value, but symbolic meaning. Exotic stones, metals, and crafted objects may have been imbued with ritual significance, used as offerings, or incorporated into ceremonies. Imagine a merchant traveling to Mesopotamia, carrying carefully wrapped seals, beads, and vessels. Alongside their commercial purpose, these objects could have represented cultural ideas, spiritual beliefs, or social status, bridging worlds through material and symbolic exchange. Even clothing and textiles hinted identity and artistry. Cotton, carefully spun and woven, was likely dyed with natural pigments, producing colors and patterns that signified family, occupation, or social role. The artistry of everyday life extended from food preparation to personal adornment, showing a civilization that valued beauty as an intrinsic part of function and survival. Yet despite all this evidence, so much about the Indus Valley remains unknown. The script is undeciphered. The exact nature of religious practices remains speculative, and the reasons for the civilization's decline are still debated. This very mystery, however, adds to the fascination. Each artifact is a message from the past, carrying fragments of knowledge, creativity, and human experience across thousands of years. Each object invites interpretation, reflection, and imagination, allowing us to participate in small ways in the life of a vanished world. Consider the tiny details: the precise alignment of bricks in the street, the gentle slope of a drain, the careful polish of a bead, the subtle curve of a figurine's posture. Every element is intentional, functional, and beautiful. The people of the Indus Valley understood that excellence is found in attention to detail, that harmony is achieved when art, utility, and daily life coexist seamlessly. Even as centuries pass and cities fade, these small, enduring details whisper lessons of skill, patience, and human ingenuity. And perhaps the most compelling mystery is how all this knowledge was shared and preserved. With no decipherable written records, how did the Indus people teach their crafts, pass on knowledge of trade, maintain sanitation systems, or sustain social order? The answer may lie in observation, apprenticeship, and communal learning systems that allowed the civilization to flourish quietly and efficiently, emphasizing practice, repetition, and shared responsibility over grandiose declarations. Tonight, as you imagine wandering through these ancient cities, picture the artifacts in their silent homes: the beads on shelves, the seals on work tables, the figurines on altars. Imagine the care, thoughtfulness, and reverence embedded in each object, each gesture, each action. Hear the soft murmur of life, now long gone carried in the rhythm of footsteps, the gentle flow of water through drains, and the subtle echoes of creativity and belief that survive in stone, clay, and metal. The Indus Valley Civilization may have vanished from sight, yet it continues to speak softly and persistently to anyone willing to observe, imagine, and reflect. Its legacy lies not only in the artifacts of the streets, but in the enduring lessons of harmony, innovation, and resilience. Even today, thousands of years later, we can feel the pulse of a civilization that cherished the balance between human life, the environment, and the world beyond its riverbanks. As this chapter closes, remember that the story of the Indus Valley is ongoing. Each excavation, each discovery, each interpretation brings us closer to understanding a civilization that mastered craft, urban planning, trade, and community life in ways that remain inspiring. And as the night deepens, we prepare to conclude this journey with reflections on the enduring mysteries, lessons, and inspirations of a people who built cities hidden in time but alive in imagination. As the night sky settles over the Indus Valley, dotted with stars mirrored in the calm waters of the river, we reach the final chapter of our journey. Tonight, we reflect on the legacy of the Indus civilization, a people who built hidden cities, mastered crafts, developed trade networks, and lived in harmony with their environment. Those centuries have passed, and much of their world lies in silence beneath the sands. The Indus Valley continues to speak, quietly, persistently, and with a depth that captures our imagination. The first lesson of the Indus civilization is the elegance of organization. Cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa were meticulously planned, with streets aligned, homes designed around courtyards, and sophisticated drainage systems, ensuring cleanliness and efficiency. This urban planning reveals a people who understood foresight, structure, and balance. Unlike many later civilizations, their success was not measured by monumental architecture or military conquest, but by the smooth functioning of everyday life. Here, greatness was practical, human, and quietly extraordinary. Daily life, as we have imagined, was marked by rhythm, cooperation, and purpose. Families rose with the sun, tending fields, crafting goods, trading, and maintaining their homes. Children played in courtyards while learning the skills they would one day master. Artisans polished stones, shaped clay, and forged metal with care. Merchants moved goods across rivers and deserts, connecting distant lands with threads of commerce and culture. And throughout it all, spirituality, art, and beauty were woven seamlessly into the fabric of life. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was haphazard. Every action carried meaning and intention. Trade was not just a matter of survival, it was a bridge to the wider world. Beads, seals, pottery, and textiles traveled far beyond the valley, reaching Mesopotamia, Persia, and possibly even further. Ideas, techniques, and perhaps beliefs accompanied these goods, creating a network of cultural exchange that elevated both local and distant communities. The Indus people were global in their vision, even as they remained rooted in the rhythms of their rivers, fields, and homes. Crafts and arts flourished as a reflection of ingenuity and imagination. Every bead, figurine, and seal tells a story of skill, care, and creativity. Even functional objects carry elegance, whether it is the polish of a tool, the symmetry of a vessel, or the delicate carving on a seal. Here, utility and beauty were inseparable, demonstrating a subtle philosophy that life is enriched when function meets artistry. And that work itself can be a form of expression. The mysteries of the Indus civilization are perhaps its most compelling legacy. The script remains undeciphered, leaving its people's thoughts, governance, and stories just out of reach. Cities once thriving now stand silent, their inhabitants vanished or dispersed. The reasons for decline, environmental change, river shifts, trade disruption, or disease remain speculative, a puzzle that continues to engage scholars and historians. Yet in this very uncertainty lies wonder. The Indus Valley invites curiosity, imagination, and reflection, reminding us that not all knowledge is easily contained, and not all questions have immediate answers. Religious life, subtly reflected in artifacts, figurines, and public baths, suggests a civilization in which spirituality was integrated into daily life. There were no massive temples, no ostentatious rituals. Reverence was personal, communal, and harmonious with everyday existence. Fertility, nature, and water. The river itself may have been central symbols. The emphasis was on balance and connection, reinforcing a society that lived with awareness of both human needs and the forces of the natural world. And then there is the enduring genius of their infrastructure. Standardized bricks, organized streets, and sophisticated drainage systems demonstrate not only engineering skill, but foresight and shared responsibility. Water management, granaries, and workshops all reflect a civilization that understood sustainability long before the term existed. Each brick, each drain, each carefully planned street is a testament to intelligence, cooperation, and vision. Even as the civilization faded, its influence continued, both directly and indirectly. Later societies may have adopted techniques in urban planning, craft, or trade learned from or inspired by the Indus Valley. The ideas embedded in their daily life, their balance of work and creativity, and their integration of art and function remain timeless lessons. In this way, the people of the Indus continue to teach, guide, and inspire even from the shadows of history. As you lie quietly tonight, let your imagination wander through these hidden cities. Picture the bustling markets, the gentle flow of the river, the children playing, the artisans at work, and the soft light falling across courtyards. Hear the quiet murmur of streets, the subtle rhythm of life, and the invisible pulse of human ingenuity. Though the cities themselves may no longer bustle with activity, their spirit persists, woven into the artifacts, the streets, and the stories that continue to emerge through discovery. The Indus Valley Civilization reminds us that greatness can exist quietly, without spectacle, yet with lasting impact. Their legacy is one of order, intelligence, creativity, and connection between humans, nature, and distant lands. It is a civilization that teaches the value of foresight, the dignity of work, and the importance of harmony. It reminds us that even in apparent silence, a culture can speak volumes, reaching across time to touch hearts, spark imagination, and inspire wonder. As we close this chapter and complete our journey, remember that history is not merely a record of kings and battles. It is the story of people, of daily lives, of creativity and connection. It is the rhythm of work and rest, the beauty of craft, the hum of trade, and the mysteries that endure long after the cities fall silent. The Indus Valley Civilization offers all of this and more, a timeless lesson in how humans can shape, inhabit, and harmonize with their world. Tonight, as you drift into sleep, let the whispers of Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro carry you gently. Picture the flowing river, the quiet streets, the enduring artifacts, and the lives lived with care, purpose, and subtle brilliance. Listen to the hum of a civilization that, though long gone, continues to resonate quietly, beautifully, and eternally in the heart of history and in your imagination. And so, our journey through the hidden cities of the Indus Valley comes to an end, leaving behind stories, lessons, and mysteries that will continue to inspire anyone who pauses, observes, and dreams.